Republican Senator Tom Cotton of Arkansas, who wrote that letter. You heard what the Secretary said. Unprecedented, inappropriate, unthought out, unconstitutionally wrong. What were you trying to accomplish, Senator?
Bob, I and 46 other senators are focused on stopping Iran from getting a nuclear weapon, and we wanted to be crystal clear that Iran's leaders got the message that in our constitutional system, while the president negotiates deals, Congress has to approve them for them to be lasting and binding. And I have to say, I'm surprised by Secretary's comments this morning, because just a few days ago he testified before the Senate to say that any deal would not be legally binding. And now he says that future Congresses can't change a mere executive agreement if we disagree with them or if a future president disagrees with them. That's not the way our constitutional system works, and it's certainly not the way we should be negotiating with Iran.
Did you talk to the Secretary of State? Did you talk to any Democrats in the Senate before you chose to go directly to the Iranians?
I and many other senators, Republican and Democrat, have expressed our sincere and long-held intent that Congress must approve any nuclear deal with Iran for months. In fact, going back almost 2 years ago, I was part of a 400-person majority in the House of Representatives that sought to impose more sanctions on Iran. We did reach out to some Democratic offices, but I can tell you that the viewpoint is widely shared, and I don't see how anyone could dispute that if a deal is reached with Iran that is not approved by the Congress, then future Congresses and future presidents don't have to accept it in our constitutional system.
Well, Senator, it's not exactly news to say that the Congress can pass laws to change whatever laws or agreements are on the books. But why did you decide to try to convince the Iranians that they needed to be wary of dealing with the United States? Why not take your argument to the American people? Why didn't you write an open letter in the New York Times or something?
Iran's leaders needed to hear the message loud and clear. I can tell you they are not hearing that message from Geneva. In fact, if you look at the response of the Iranian Foreign Minister, Javad Zarif, it underscores the need for the letter in the first place, because he made it clear that he does not understand our constitutional system. He thinks that international law can override our Constitution.
Well, Senator, are you planning to contact any other of our adversaries around the country? For example, do you plan to check with the North Koreans to make sure that they know that any deal has to be approved by the Congress?
Bob, right now I and most every other senator is focused on stopping Iran from getting a nuclear weapon. And that's why it's so important that we communicated this message straight to Iran, because they're not hearing it from Geneva. And remember, this is not a parliamentary democracy. The Islamic Revolution of Iran has been killing Americans, hundreds of Americans, for 35 years in Iraq, in Lebanon, in Saudi Arabia. Well, they kill Jews around the world, from Israel to Bulgaria to Argentina.
How does it make America stronger to tell them that any agreement they make with this administration may not be worth the paper it's written on and may not last beyond this presidency? How does that make things better?
It's a simple fact of our Constitution that if Congress doesn't approve that deal, then it may not last. And the deal that is on the table right now is a very bad deal. It would allow Iran to have thousands and thousands of centrifuges to continue enriching uranium. It would do nothing to the military dimensions of Iran's nuclear program. It's excluded entirely the ballistic missile program that Iran has, which is designed solely to strike the United States right here at home, and it could have a 10-year sunset. Bob, since you brought up North Korea, I would point out that in 1994, the United States entered into something called the Agreed North Korea from getting a bomb. They almost immediately started cheating on it, and a mere 12 years later, they detonated their first nuclear weapon. Now the world has to live with the consequences of a nuclear North Korea. I don't want the world to live with the consequences of a nuclear Iran.
Earlier today, former Secretary of State Madeleine Albright told our local affiliate here, WUSA, that what you did was akin to during the Cuban Missile Crisis. If a senator had called Nikita Khrushchev and told him he couldn't be certain that President Kennedy could back up any deal he made with him. Do you see a comparison there?
No, I would disagree. And Secretary Albright was part of the Clinton administration that entered into the fundamentally flawed agreement to work with North Korea. But more fundamentally, what we did was to send a clear message to a dictatorial regime. We didn't coddle or conciliate with the dictators in Iran. We told them that the American people 71% of the American people in a recent poll will not accept a deal that puts Iran on the path to a nuclear weapon. 71% of the American people are right, and that's for whom we're speaking.
What do you want to happen here? What is your alternative here? Let's say that the deal falls through. Then what?
Well, as Prime Minister Netanyahu said, the alternative to a bad deal is a better deal. The Iranians frequently bluff to walk away from the table. If they bluff this week, call their bluff. But Congress stands ready to impose much more severe sanctions. Moreover, we have to stand up to Iran's attempts to drive for regional dominance. They already control Tehran. Increasingly, they control Damascus and Beirut and Baghdad and now Sana'a as well. They do all that without a nuclear weapon. Imagine what they would do with a nuclear weapon.
I just want to make sure, do you feel that you have not weakened the president's hand here, and do you have any regrets about the way you went about this?
No regrets at all. And if the president and the Secretary of State were intent on driving a hard bargain, to this letter and say, they're right, as Secretary Kerry said on Wednesday in a Senate testimony, any lasting deal needs to be approved by Congress. When past senators like Joe Biden or Jesse Helms communicated directly with foreign leaders, past presidents like Ronald Reagan and Bill Clinton did just that. The fact that President Obama doesn't see this letter as a way to get more leverage at the negotiating table just underscores that he is not negotiating for the hardest deal possible. He is negotiating a deal that is going to put Iran on the path to a bomb. Right. If not today or tomorrow, then 10 years from now.
We'll stop there, Senator. Thank you for coming by and explaining your point.
Thank you.